Now we'll look at a second problem to do with slope-point form of linear functions. Describe the graph of the linear function with this equation. Y plus 1 equals negative 1/2, and in brackets x subtract 2. If we're looking at describing this function in slope-point form, we have to find two important elements, which are the slope and a point on the graph. So I'll remind you, the slope is this m value, which for us is this. It's negative 1/2. It is the number in front of the x value. And then we're also going to describe a point, and that point is x1 and y1. Now if we look at this, this is the y value or y1, except if you remember from the last problem that the y1 changes as we go from the graph to the equation. And because this is y subtract the y1, and since it's not y subtract this y1 value, that means that y1 is actually a negative 1. And here we have x subtract x1. Well, if we look, this is x subtract x1, so this 2 is x1. Again, I'll remind you, from the equation to the graph, these signs change. So this is subtract 2 here, but it's really a positive 2 in the point on the graph. And on the in the equation, it's a plus 1, but on the graph, it's a negative 1. So these signs will always change. So in terms of describing this, the slope of the line is 1/2. So the slope of the line that passes through this point, 2 and negative 1, is 1/2. Now, when we go to graph this, we do not have the y-intercept, but we do have a starting point that we can use. That point is this x1, y1. So we can plot this point, and we'll start with that, which is positive 2 on x and negative 1 on y. So this is the first point that we're starting with. And then we can use this slope, which is our rise over our run. And what I'll do is I'll attach the negative to just the numerator, which is our rise. So from this point, I'm going to go down one space, and then I'm going to go to a horizontal distance of positive 2 in the right direction. And from this point, I'll do the same thing again. I'll go down 1, and I'll go 2 spaces to the right. And I can continue to do that to plot this. So through these points, there's enough points here that I can draw a line through these points from one end of the graph to the other. And this is that equation graphed. So this is the line y plus 1 equals negative 1/2 and then x minus 2. And if you can see, this is a negative sloped graph. It does go down one space for every 2 horizontally. And the point, like I said, changes on the graph. It's going to be a positive 2 and a negative 1.